Millions of people all over the world have done the Artist's Way, which is a 12-week course that's supposed to help you unlock your creativity. Despite my best efforts to avoid participating in an outdated pseudo-spiritual self-help program, I am now one of them. Okay, so in case you don't know me, my name is Elanor, and I'm a filmmaker. I'm 25 years old, and I currently am unemployed and live with my parents in Western New York in my childhood bedroom. So I kind of have a long history with the Artist's Way, even though I've never done it before. I first bought the Artist's Way in, I think, 2017. And at this point in my life, I was newly certain that I wanted to be a filmmaker, but I really had no resources or knowledge of how to pursue that. So the one thing I felt like I could do that was in my power was to just read as much as I can. I collected a pretty extensive library of classic books on filmmaking and acting. And in that research and collection process, I discovered the Artist's Way. And it was appealing to me at the time, but I didn't think of myself as an artist, so I didn't really consider doing it. But I bought it at this used bookstore because I knew I wanted to have it in my collection. And I felt like happening upon it in the wild was kind of a sign that I needed to have it in my life. As you work with the tools in this book, many changes will be set in motion. Chief among these changes will be the triggering of synchronicity. We change and the universe furthers and expands that change. So basically in 2020, I was a sophomore in college and had sort of just started making some student films, but still didn't really think of myself as a filmmaker, even though I wanted to be one. And the pandemic happened at the end of my sophomore year of college. And among the material circumstances that it created, like completely derailing my college experience and me having to finish it remotely and not being able to capitalize on the progress I had made and the investment I was making in my education, the main thing that impacted me is that I literally became clinically depressed, and it was circumstantial, but at the same time, like, I was so depressed that I just had extreme creative block. And not even just creative block, but kind of like a major block from doing or thinking anything. Like, it's much deeper than writer's block. And I was really trying everything to help myself. Like, I was going to therapy, I was trying medication, which nothing helped. And one of the things I sort of tried or thought about trying was the Artist's Way. I think it was in the summer of 2020. And the main reason was because I had to finish my final film to graduate college, and I was completely paralyzed and could not do it. And I was like, I need something to help. And I read the intro in the first chapter, I think, and I just fucking hated it. I was like, I can't do this. This is so annoying. And I kind of like swore I would never do it. To effect a creative recovery, we must undergo a time of mourning. In dealing with the suicide of the nice self we have been making do with, we find a certain amount of grief to be essential. Our tears prepare the ground for our future growth. We must allow the bolt of pain to strike us. Remember, this is useful pain. Lightning illuminates. The deeper reason that I didn't want to do it is because I was reading about the two main things that it entails, which is morning pages. And morning pages are writing 3 pages a day as soon as you wake up in the morning of stream of consciousness journaling, and also going on an artist date, which is like going somewhere or doing something by yourself for an hour, to have your time for yourself. The reason why I decided I didn't want to do the Artist's Way is because at various points in my life, I had already done both of those things. The morning pages acquaint us with what we think and what we think we need. We identify problem areas and concerns. We complain, enumerate, identify, isolate, fret. This is step 1, analogous to prayer. In the course of the release engendered by our artist date, step 2,
we begin to hear solutions. Perhaps equally important, we begin to fund the creative reserves we will draw on in fulfilling our artistry. Often the students most resistant to morning pages come to love them the best. In fact, hating the morning pages is a very good sign.
I started journaling pretty extensively when I was in early high school. I actually think my time journaling really helped me validate myself in wanting to become a filmmaker and overcome a lot of the judgment that I felt about choosing that as a profession. So as I was journaling all the time when I was a teenager, I feel like when I first started, it felt kind of performative, like I was trying to make my writing good, and there was this part of me that was sort of writing it in hopes that someone would read it. And honestly, reading the Diary of Anne Frank when I was in high school, like, really put some perspective into me that I'm not Anne Frank and my life isn't interesting and no one's gonna read my diary, and like this is not some vital historical record that I'm creating. Like, it's a way of processing my thoughts and feelings in the moment, and stream of consciousness journaling is just like much better for that exercise. And also one of the things it helped me with was like not caring about how I was perceived. Like, writing in your journal is kind of the one place where you can say things that are unflattering and it doesn't matter because no one is hearing you or reading you say them.
It is impossible to write morning pages for any extended period of time without coming into contact with an unexpected inner power. The pages are a pathway to a strong and clear sense of self. They are a trail that we follow into our own interior, where we meet both our own creativity and our creator.
On the other side of that, and the reason that I stopped journaling regularly, particularly stream of consciousness journaling, is when I got clinically depressed in 2020. When I was stream of consciousness journaling, I was really mean to myself. I would be able to suppress that, like to just live my life, but when I was really in that stream of consciousness and not filtering my thoughts and feelings, like all of that would come out and it was really hurtful to me. The artist way really wasn't right for me in the time when maybe I most needed it because I was the most blocked. And I don't think that's something that's like talked about enough or really addressed in the book, which is an issue I have with it. Because I think if you are in that place that I was and you start really doing stream of consciousness journaling, like things might come up from your unconscious that you're not ready to process. And also like you can kind of make your self-esteem worse by just like being in this cycle of being cruel to yourself. That's like my biggest criticism of the book. And this has happened to me so many times. I just hate when people recommend the artist way carelessly. Like, oh, you should just do the artist way. Like, it changed my life. I just think stream of consciousness journaling in particular should be done with caution. I hope that if you're watching this and you're thinking about doing it, you kind of like take my experience and my testimony as a way to evaluate for yourself if it's right for you. You might be wondering like how I got out of that really dark time in my life. And it was through tangible experiences and uprooting my life and really evaluating if I wanted to give up or quit being an artist, kind of doing everything in my power to not be an artist and then coming back to it because I just had to, and like it is ultimately who I am and what I'm supposed to be doing. That process took years and took a lot of bravery, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of facing setbacks in my career, a lot of heartache. Ultimately, my experiences since 2020, basically from like 2020 to 2023, have led me to this place of, I wouldn't say creative productivity, but unbridled creative freedom. Like, I do not feel blocked in the way that I did in 2020, where I like literally couldn't think. Now I have so many ideas and so much less judgment about my ideas, and sort of my blockage now is that I can't keep up with my ideas. Like the actual act of making my art is something that I want to work on. It's really hard for me to get started on a project, and it's really hard for me to transition between projects. Like that period of finishing something and then starting something else is really hard for me, and I have a lot of procrastination and kind of like overthinking in that phase. I've kind of identified that my biggest source of procrastination with my YouTube is the filming of the videos and being on camera, because I am just a very shy person and it's hard for me to do. I'm not like a natural performer or speaker to the camera. I want to try to just like dig deep and like find my inner power and strength in terms of putting myself out there and making videos, and this series is part of me doing that. The main thing and place that I'm at right now, kind of going back to my issue with transitions, is I am about to finish really my first major project of my career as a filmmaker, which is my feature documentary, Living in a Body, that I've been making for the past 2 years. I shot it in the fall of 2023 and have been working on it since, doing most of the work myself. So I still am unemployed, living with my parents. The reason for that is so I could devote myself to my art full time. My idea was that it would just like really force me to make things, you know, like I didn't have the excuse of, oh, I have to pay my rent and work a job to pay my rent and like I'm too busy to make a film, because I just knew that would happen if I moved to a big city to try to like pursue my my filmmaking at that time. So I've done that. I mean, I made this feature film. I have made all these YouTube videos. So now I'm at a place where I am going to move to New York City and pursue my, you know, commercial filmmaking career and start having those real career responsibilities again. And my original plan was to directly coincide that move to New York City with finishing my feature film. But just the way life has worked out, I'm not going to be moving to New York until September of this year. So I have this spring and summer in my childhood bedroom in my parents' house where I'm done with my major film, but I'm waiting to move to New York. I'm not going to be working on film sets or working on like the networking business aspect of my career. I can't do that until I move somewhere where there's a film industry, which is not where I live currently. For context, I live in Western New York. The area I live in is like 6 to 7 hours away from New York City. I live in like a rural area outside of a small working class city. So when you hear me talk about living in New York State, I don't live in upstate New York, which is like what New Yorkers call the area directly north of New York City, like within a 1 to 2 hour commute of New York. New York is a huge state with lots of different regions and a diverse population, and living in proximity to New York City is just not my reality. So yeah, I just like need to explain that, because I swear to God, people think I live in like the suburbs of New York City, which just could not be further from the truth. And I don't have like access to New York City where I live, or really access to any major city. So with this time that I have of having finished my project and having the stress of finishing it kind of off my shoulders, and then, you know, not living in New York yet and like having a busy life with a job and responsibilities like that, I have this deep feeling and conviction that my next like thing I have to overcome in terms of my artistic self is to write a feature-length screenplay. This is the aspect of filmmaking that I struggle with the most, is writing and the pre-production. I have never liked screenwriting. I've only written like a few short films. I mostly make documentaries right now, but I've always wanted to be a narrative filmmaker, and I love narrative films. And the reason that I've been making documentaries right now is because there's a lower barrier to entry to doing it, and because those opportunities have just kind of come to me. But I know that I want to be a narrative filmmaker as well as a documentary filmmaker, and I know that I have to write my own films. And the good news is that I have ideas for films that I want to make that I would say are fairly fleshed out. Like I don't have an outline yet, but I have kind of like the core idea and the emotional themes that I want to explore. I have 2 distinct ideas for 2 different films. So I think this summer, while I have this time, my goal is to write a rough draft of a screenplay, a feature-length screenplay. And because this is such a huge challenge for me and not something that comes naturally to me in the filmmaking process or something I have a lot of education or experience doing, this is where I'm blocked, is the kind of initial conception of a fictional story, really developing fictional characters and writing dialogue. It's so hard to describe because I feel like I know myself as an artist, like I know my style, I know what I want to say, I know what I want the films to look like. Putting it all together, especially when you are starting from nothing, is really hard. My goal with doing the Artist Way is that it helps me this summer kind of get over that barrier. And the thing is, like, I think it's just my fear and my inexperience in writing. There's just something so intimidating about writing, like being faced with the empty page and having to kind of draw from your unconscious and your just deep creative ideas and then put that on the page. Like once you have the script or the outline, to me, it's just so much easier to work from that. Like I really have a clear point of view as a director. I feel like I am a very visual person. I love working with people and like working with my subject in my documentary, and I know that I love working with actors and I love the editing process. Like all of that I love and I just can go for it. But the screenwriting is something I really struggle with, even though I have the ideas for the films. So I think that me even having this like drive to write the screenplay is just such progress from where I was even a year ago, let alone when I was in college. I just could not conceptualize writing a feature-length screenplay. I just felt like maybe I would be a director who never writes their own films, or just that I wouldn't make a film until I was much older. So I think all the progress I've gone through already and how quick it's been in terms of my artistic development just gives me hope that with the right tools, I can keep that progress going and I can do things that I didn't think I was capable of. I feel like the way Julia Cameron, the author of The Artist's Way, talks about it is like she uses these extreme examples of people who have like total writer's block or just total creative blocks, like they cannot make art. And then The Artist's Way unlocks their creative self and they're like writing novels and become famous and all this stuff. I just want to say I hate the extreme nature of that, and I feel like my case is not extreme like that. I am coming to this in a place where I feel like I'm healthy, like my artistic self is healthy. I wasn't able to do this book when I was like in that deep place of artistic blockage that I was in 2020. So I'm coming to it at this like kind of midway point where I think of myself as a serious artist. I have a serious artistic practice. I work on my art every single day. I'm just using it to take that next step that I know I need to take, and I'm kind of open about seeing if it helps me or not. I'm open to the experience of it being transformative, but the thing is, I know that I'm capable of transformation because of the hardships that I've fought through already and the progress that I've made on my own. I'm just coming to it from a place of curiosity and open-mindedness. I like that I don't have this desperate feeling of hoping, like, I hope this works, I hope this fixes my problems. I remember in 2020 when I was going to therapy and when I was trying like medications for my depression and when I moved to Alaska and when I was doing these things, I remember this like desperate hoping feeling like this something needs to change in my life because I just can't go on the way that I'm going on. I don't feel like that approaching doing the artist way now. Or if I still, struggle with writing, it's okay. And I know that if I just keep trying every day that I can do it. But I am kind of curious to like return to the stream of consciousness journaling that I was doing when I was in high school and what really helped me initially think of myself as a filmmaker, but do it in the structure of doing it every day. And also seeing what other exercises the book has to offer because I don't really know what those are.
Those who speak in spiritual terms routinely refer to God as the creator, but seldom see creator as the literal term for artist. I am suggesting you take the term creator quite literally. You are seeking to forge a creative alliance, artist to artist with the great creator. Creativity is God's gift to us. Using our creativity is our gift back to God.
So something else that I kind of wanted to address about the book and that I have complicated feelings on is the spiritual nature of it and also the prescriptive nature of it. I don't like being told what to do. I don't like being in a group where we're all like forced to do the same thing, which this book, like I'm not doing it in a group, but just the fact that so many people have done this and that it's just kind of like this thing in our culture. I don't like that. I'm extremely skeptical about any form of like organized thought. I wasn't raised religious and I really don't fuck with organized religion across the board. And this book has a spiritual element of talking about God, basically. Not a God associated with organized religion, but the idea of the act of creation as being something holy and sacred and like coming from a higher power. I am a spiritual person. I do consider myself someone who has faith. I actually feel like me not being raised in a religion and my own skepticism about religion in general has actually helped me become more spiritual as I've gotten older, because I feel like spirituality and faith and religion are two different things. And I feel like faith and spirituality are important parts of life and also go hand in hand with skepticism and doubt, which is something I'm very good at and comes very naturally to me. And being an artist has really given me faith because it is really my greatest challenge and greatest weakness in life is unlocking my creativity. All those aspects of the book are not new ideas to me. Like there are things that I've arrived to by myself. So reading it in the book, it doesn't feel like this is what this lady is telling me to believe. It feels like this is kind of just one of the aspects of being an artist and she is just articulating it in a certain way. And I like reading it in the book kind of as a reminder of my own faith and my own thoughts on creativity being something that's sacred. I remember when I read this book in 2020, like I said, I found it very prescriptive and I didn't like that. And then as I'm rereading it now, I actually think the language that she uses is much more open-ended than I originally interpreted it. And she sort of gives the reader outs at all corners. Like she makes it very clear when she's talking about the spiritual aspect of it that it's like not the same spirituality as our society's like general idea of God and religion. And she also explains that like you don't have to do every single exercise in this book. You know, you can take and leave what you need. And then one of the things I really didn't like when I read it in 2020 was there's a contract in the book that you actually have to sign your name in. I hated that. I was like, I'm not going to sign a contract. It just felt like this weird culty commitment. And I was fully anticipating when I reread it this time to like still not like that and maybe still not want to do it actually. And then when I got to the part in the chapter at the end where you have to sign the contract, I realized that she actually says, you can sign this contract or you can make your own contract, which again is like very open-ended. I love that because it made me realize that the contract that you're signing is really your dedication to showing up for yourself. me doing the artist way isn't me following some lady's idea. It's me deciding that I'm going to show up for myself every single day in an effort to work on myself as an artist and develop myself as a person. So in that sense, I actually really like the idea of signing a contract, and to really make me remember that it's my commitment to myself that I'm agreeing to. I am going to make my own contract with my own rules.
When I am teaching the artist way, I require students to make a contract with themselves, committing to the work of the course. Can you give yourself that gift? I will greet my resistance with curiosity. I will be kind to myself. I will take care of my body. I will support the creative pursuits of others. I believe that I am capable of all that I seek to create. I believe that the universe rewards creativity with abundance.